So, Andrew, Global Talent Trends 2024, one of the interesting things that we've seen from this year's data is that there is a big difference between how people are actually working at the moment and what their preferred working patterns are. So, what we see in the data is that a lot of people actually are still working full time in the office, although most people have some sort of preference for hybrid working. So, I just wanted to get your reflections in terms of how do your team currently work in terms of the relationship between home working and office working, and what do you see as some of the benefits of having some flexibility around that?
Yeah, well, just a little bit of context first, which I think is important. I imagine it is because we're a manufacturing business, so we have a factory here on site as well as our head office, and clearly the factory can't work from home.
Mm.
And I think it's important, therefore, that we're cognizant of that fact as office workers that a good chunk of our workforce are here all day, every day. But that said, since the pandemic, we have moved to a hybrid situation. But it's very flexible in the finance team. We have people who are predominantly office based, but will take the odd day here and there working from home. We have people who work from home the same days every week, week in, week out. But they will also be in the office on those same days, week in, week out. And then we expect a degree of flexibility too, such that if we've got a particular meeting or it's period end or we've got visitors in where we need somebody to be in the office on a day they would typically be working from home, we expect the flexibility around that so that this isn't stuck in stone. And I think that's important for the employee as well as the employer to
Yeah.
have that flexible arrangement.
Yeah. What do your employees, particularly the finance team, tell you, Andrew, in terms of what they see as the benefits of that? Because I guess there's things like, well, it saves on commuting time, it allows them to sort of arrange their home life perhaps sort of a bit more effectively.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's, I think commuting is one thing. The traffic isn't great to here, and people do commute in, sort of up to 20, 25 miles. So the ability to not commute, to be able to work, in some cases, the hours that suits them rather than the straight office hours. So if they wanted to start work early or work late, certain tasks can be performed in isolation. So
Yeah.
that works well. The ability to balance childcare, to be able to drop your children off or pick them up from school and work around that, I think is good. And I think for some people, there are less distractions when working from home. For some people, there are more distractions. So there's not one size fits all here.
Indeed.
And
Yeah.
so, those are the sorts of benefits that we hear. And I think, for the employer, the benefits are probably slightly less obvious. And maybe I'm a bit of a traditionalist here, but I think in the long run, retention and recruitment, it is good to
Yeah.
be able to offer the hybrid model. And long-term well-being of employees, if they feel that their employer is being flexible with them about when they do and don't have to come to the office, that can only lead to more productivity in the long run. But it just becomes a little bit more difficult to measure, I think, from an employer's perspective,
Yeah.
what the benefits are.
Yeah, indeed. It's very interesting. 2 points you raised there about recruitment and retention. I don't think there's any doubt in our data that that is absolutely the case. Employees that are offering some sort of bit more flexibility with the working practices are essentially better placed in terms of those issues. And then, interestingly, you mentioned mental health as well, and we've correlated the data a lot actually, and you can see a definitive link between those people who say they're working under some sort of more flexible hybrid working practice and better mental health outcomes as well. So it's really interesting to see that. I guess I've got to ask the question, and you've sort of just touched on this slightly, but in terms of challenges, and here I'm thinking things like collaboration and those sort of things where you have people based at home? Are there any particular challenges that you think, well, we're still trying to work at that a little bit?
Yeah, I think we've got better at it, but it did take a long time actually for us to realise that this was going to be here to stay. I think we perhaps thought it was a moment through COVID, and then we'd all go back to how it
Yeah,
used to be. But I think now we've settled into a routine. It's better. But I think you mentioned collaboration. I think that is depleted when you're not all in the same place. I think the routine tasks of running the finance department, period end reporting, statutory accounting, transactional issues, it's very straightforward to deal with that. I find the ad hoc tasks a little bit more challenging because you get something and it needs to be done this afternoon, and you've got who you've got in the office, and you're not quite sure what your folks who are not in the office are doing that particular moment. Whereas you would be used to pre-COVID having the ability to pick and choose who you could give that ad
sure.
task to. So I think that's a little bit trickier. I do worry about junior members of staff
Yeah,
and their ability to pick up things that on an informal basis. And I look back at my career, I'm sure I picked up things at the water cooler moment, if you like,
yeah,
that there's not that opportunity unless you force yourself to be there. And it's not just about the junior member of staff being there. You need the other members of staff to be there also to impart that knowledge. So I think that's a concern that I have. And you've got to be much better on your diary coordination so that you do know where everybody is, and that they have to be in the office or they have to be at home that particular day, and so you can work around it. So it's not without its challenges, but we've got better over time, and we'll continue to develop, I'm sure.